Welcome to Ham and Jam, the World War II British Airborne podcast, hosted by Andy Bryant and Kevin Getz.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Well, listeners, what do you say there, Andy? How's everything going?
It's good. It's not too bad. Consider, 3 days into 2025 and haven't had any major disasters yet, so that's not too bad. How about you?
You know what? It's been a rather eventful 2025 so far, but I'm really looking forward to what we have coming up. And 2024 was just a really good year. Wasn't it, though?
It was.
The last 3 months were just absolutely spectacular.
Yep.
So we had talked about this, and I thought, you know what? It's time to give our listeners a little bit of bonus.
We decided to have a special one-off episode.
Absolutely. Just to give them a little taste of what's coming up. But I think before we do that, Andy, what are you drinking?
Well, I know what I'm drinking, and no surprises here, but I am drinking a pint of Guinness.
Color me surprised that you're drinking Guinness again. Well, actually, I'm going with the cuppa because I just got done working outside in the cold, so there's nothing more warming than a nice warm cup of tea.
I can't believe you're drinking a cup of tea, mate. You're more British than I am.
I'm fine. I don't know about you, but we're getting ready for the snowpocalypse here. We're supposed to get 6 to 12 inches of snow and freezing rain, so I thought, I'd better get those outside decorations down.
Yeah, we're expecting some snow, or parts of the UK are expecting some snow and ice this weekend.
So, Andy, what was your 2024 like?
Oh, it was pretty outstanding. It was a year of 2 fantastic 80th anniversaries as far as operations go. Had a fantastic week in Normandy with the Hammer Jam guys and some guys from 3 different living history groups. We went out there as a big group and stayed at the Merville Battery all week, and that was fantastic. At the back of the battery, there is like a field, and in that field, there was probably a couple of hundred living history reenactment people with a camp all set up, British Airborne for the most part, and it was really good. They've got a Dakota there. So they'd have every day they'd do like a demonstration of a stick of paratroopers getting geared up with the chutes and everything. I took my chute, my overstock and everything, and we had a stick and actually got into the aircraft and people trying to get them up into the aircraft with the bags and everything.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up, because what were you thinking, or what was going through your head? What were you feeling and I get it, it's not 1944. But you're doing this demonstration for the public.
We were in pairs. I had the oversmock on, looking like I was ready to get my chute on next. And it was quite good, actually, because we were the only Brits doing that part. And the rest of the guys were all, I think there might have been some Dutch. The majority, they were French, obviously, because we're in Normandy. And it was just a really good atmosphere. Everyone was very amenable and friendly. But actually doing the kitting up and everything, it was just really good. It was a bit surreal, I must admit, trying to push my mate up into the back of the aircraft, into the back of the deck with his leg bag.
Yeah, because you always think about those photos where you see the photos of the guys pushing his mate in front of him to get him up.
And you can totally
there,
understand why they had to do that. So I mean, the weight of kit they were carrying. And then we did, as a group, when the time was our own, one of the guys had a Jeep and we were flying around in that. We visited the Chateau Saint-Côme. We visited, obviously, Peggy Bridge. We were down all along the Breville Ridge. We did some night stuff or evening stuff around Merville. It was just so good. Yeah, we did the Pegasus Bridge on the 5th, evening of the 5th, with the fireworks and all the rest of it. And that was good. But would I want to do it again? It was a little bit too much like a carnival for me.
Sure. So was it any different? Because I know you've been over there, several times.
Quite a few.
Was it any different knowing it was the 80th? Did it have a different kind of vibe, or was it pretty much the same?
Well, as I said when Woody came on, there was still the commemorations going on, but there did seem to be a different atmosphere to this one, to when I was there for the 75th. There seemed to be... And again, we touched on this when we spoke to Woody. Because the veterans aren't as numerous as they were, there does seem to be this shift with the French towards celebration And I think it's almost like because the veterans are sort of starting to leave us now, they're allowing themselves to celebrate the liberation part of the commemoration of D-Day. Because I think before they might have felt a little bit guilty, we can't party too hard because how many thousands of guys died in that campaign and on D-Day itself. But I think they're starting to sort of relax a little bit now. And it is still, I mean, it's always, every time I've been there, it's been licensed to print money. You know, there's a lunchbox and you slap Normandy D-Day on it, you know, and whatever. It's, So it's very commercial. But again, I think you're going to find it anywhere where it's same as Arnhem, and you're going to find it anywhere. Yeah. So
how else did your 2024 go? I know you had some really exciting news at the end of the year.
Yeah, well, obviously that was getting the job at the Army Flying Museum. That was something else. That was, I have to pinch myself every day to remind myself that. So I don't want to make you feel bad, mate, but I walk past the hawser every day.
And rub it in some more, please.
Yeah, only because it's you. And yeah, it's been fantastic getting that job as in the archive, working with the team there, and it's a passion project for me. My biggest problem I have is, so I'm doing maybe an inquiry for somebody about, say, perhaps airfields that were used by the GPR or something like that. And of course, I'm opening the boxes and I'm going through stuff and trying to find information. And as Woody's famously says, the rabbit holes. You go down, all of a sudden you find a really interesting document, and then half an hour later you're like, really great, but I need to be looking for one, you know.
Again, you got to remember you're doing this for somebody else.
So, you know, you have to stay on. As I say, I've only been working there full time because obviously I volunteered there and did guided tours for a couple of years now, nearly. But this is the first full time job I've had there. You're going to be coming over this year, and you're going to be seeing it firsthand. So. You know.
Oh, I love it. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll give it a guided tour.
So that'll be fantastic. And I know one of the great events for more of my fond memories of 2024 is we finally got to meet person to person.
I'll always remember that because I thought you were going to bust me ribs.
Found out that's why.
Yeah, that bear hug, the bear hug that I received from Mr. Getz or Sergeant Getz, was someone else. Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, we've been mates for a couple of years now, but that's the first time we actually met face to face as as a couple of buddies, and we had our buddies with us. But of course, we're talking about Arnhem.
Yes,
we're talking about Arnhem. So it was a double.
Would it?
Yeah, mate, it really was good. And I say we've spoken quite a bit about Arnhem on a couple of other episodes. We're not going to try not to bore everyone else, anyone else with.
Yeah, they're just, that place has always had a special place in my heart, Arnhem and Oosterbeek, and just what it means. And to walk the ground is what we did. And just the camaraderie, the lunches that we had where we could just sit and talk. And then, man, just what a fantastic week that was.
It really
was just absolutely spectacular. And then I was thrilled and honored. I'd spoken to you, and you had said, "Hey, do you want to do this podcast with me?" And I was like, "Are you talking to the right guy? Are you sure you want me?"
Well, unfortunately, Al Murray was busy, so.
What a thrill to have been asked by you, and this is an exciting journey for me. I know you and I had talked about it too, how exciting it is to build this thing from the ground up. And all we want to do is just be a bunch of folks in the pub talking. That's really the theme that we're going for. And hopefully people really appreciate and like what they're hearing. And we hope to be giving them some super exciting content.
Yeah, I've just put a post up today on our Facebook page because we do have, quick plug, a dedicated Facebook page for the Ham and Jam podcast. Don't get confused. There is another one for Ham and Jam, the group, which is the Living History group, but we also have one just for the podcast. We're also on Instagram, X, and Blue Sky at the moment. I've just put a post up on Facebook telling our listeners some of the people that we've got signed up already. And this is just, bearing in mind, this is just for February and March, actually. We've managed to get some great names, haven't we, Kev?
Yes. But as soon as I started hearing, you and I had discussed who we're going to be getting, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a cornucopia of people who know their stuff. And I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. I'm like, so who are we looking at?
Well, we've got first up, we've got James Daly, who has written two volumes of proposed airborne assaults between the time of D-Day and Operation Market Garden. One which takes us through the Normandy campaign, and then from Normandy up until Comet, I guess, is a second volume. Now he's actually coming on, and we got a double whammy with him because his grandfather was part of 11th Battalion Parachute Regiment at Arnhem. So we're going to do 2 episodes with James. We're going to do one about his books and that subject, and one about his grandfather, which is a personal story, which I'm really looking forward to.
I'm really finding these episodes are going to be, and I think our listeners are going to find them really interesting from the perspective of family members talking about what their grandpa or what their father or their great uncle did. And it's just really interesting to get their perspective because it is as the veterans, as this generation passes, it's that next generation that's going to try and keep those stories going and keep them alive. Because I've spoken with family members of veterans, and they're always afraid that they're going to be forgotten. And certainly us giving them a platform to talk about their veteran is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to think about it now. Even the age of the kids of the veterans is, I mean, they're not getting any younger.
Absolutely.
You know, 60s, 70s, and 80s, some of these people, so we need to start recording these things, and getting this.
And then you start looking into that third or fourth generation of family members that have to keep those stories going. So who else have we got?
Well, Neil Cherry's coming on to talk about Operation Colossus.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of questions about that. That's going to be, and certainly as we all know, Colossus was a colossal failure, and it's a wonder.
Could have gone better.
I almost am wondering if it hadn't been if Churchill wasn't the force that he was, if that would have sealed its fate.
Yeah.
Because that was the very first operation, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the Trujillo. Well, they weren't even the parachute regiment then. They weren't even parachute battalions. They were. They were. Actually, they were SAS, but not the SAS that we know from the David Sterling in the desert. The rogue hero stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But there is a connection to Arnhem with that operation. But I won't say too much.
Yes, there is,
because I'll let Neil tell you all about that. So who else? We have got Stephen Wright, author of One Night in June and the redone edition, which was released as Operation Tonga, Glider Assault. So that's your Normandy, 6 June, early hours of, including your coup de main at Pegasus Bridge and Merville. He's going to come on to talk about that, and that's going to be a good one. So then we are leaving Normandy for the next one. And this is where me and Kev do our fanboy bit. Because, we do the whole Wayne's World, we are not worthy chant. We're not worthy. We've got Mike Shulky Peters coming on to talk about Varsity. And again, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Along with Mike is Norma Graham, who lives up in Canada. Canada punched well above its weight. So it's going to be good to hear about what the Canadians were doing.
Absolutely.
I think oftentimes they get completely overlooked.
By the way, those 2 episodes are going to be in March. We've normally been doing an episode with me and Kevin and an episode with a guest and alternating. But for March, we're going to have 2 special guests just for the 80th of Varsity.
You and I both know Ian Pegg. He has a book regarding the chaplains. So it's going to be really interesting to hear about what the airborne chaplains were doing.
That's another one that we've got lined up, and that's going to be an interesting episode.
And I think we're going to make another trip to Arnhem. The listeners are really going to like this one. I've got a friend over here in the States, Jan Heitink. But what's different is Jan is Dutch by birth and has lived in Arnhem for the first, I want to say till he was 10, 11, 12 maybe. So he's going to come at us from a perspective of what it's like being Dutch and growing up in Arnhem and what it means, because his sister still lives in Arnhem. In fact, she has her home is right along Frost's Lion Route. But when you step out from her house, down the stairs onto the street, you are on Lion Route. Can you just possibly imagine every day that you go to work, there's history right there in front of you?
Yeah, Jan is a great guy. He was part of our little recreation of Berlin in Arnhem. And again, I'm looking forward to that. We've got some good stuff lined up. There's more stuff on the back burner that we'll let you know in due course as well as we arrange it. But lots of veterans' families, historians, and sometimes they're just going to be off the wall. Me and Kev just talking about whatever. But looking forward to it.
Yep,
looking forward to it.
You know what, Andy? I'm looking forward to 2025. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, before we go, just one thing before we go. We mentioned about the social media side of things. If you really enjoy what you're listening to and you want to give us a bit of a help out, we don't do this for money. We're doing it because it's a passion. We love what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you wanted to show a bit of appreciation, because there are overheads for running any podcast. There's the subscriptions, there's editing suites, etc. If you wanted to go on to buymeacoffee.com, where we have our own page, and buy us a virtual pint for £3, great. We'd love it. Really appreciate it. However, we're not worried if you don't. But what you could do is you can follow us on social media, on, as I say, Facebook, Instagram, all the rest of it. But even if, once you've listened to an episode, if you're on YouTube, give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. If you're listening to us on Podbean or on Spotify, again, go down to the comments, just give us a thumbs up. Doesn't have to be a comment. It all helps, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to spread the word. We're trying to get these stories out there. And I say, it's not a money thing, it's a passion thing. So
it really is.
So, well, is the landlord looking the bar at us?
I think he is. I know he's, well, we did kind of come in late right before closing. I know he's none too pleased with us. So,
well, he's not too pleased with you. You got a cup of tea. At least I bought alcohol.
That's true. He's probably going to kick us out.
So anyway,
my friend, here's to 2025. And we wish all of our listeners a very happy new year, and may you have good tidings and blessings for 2025.
Happy New Year, and ham and jam.
Ham and jam.
Thanks for listening to Ham and Jam. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help Andy and Kevin make more, please support us on buymeacoffee.com.
I just got 6 to 12 inches